Let me dare to ask you a personal question. When was the last time you felt stressed or overwhelmed with stress? If you answered today or yesterday, you are not alone. The World Health Organization classified stress as the health epidemic of the 21st century. That's pretty serious. 35% of the population reported feeling stressed on a daily basis, and 85% of the population are feeling stressed at least once a week. So why is stress that bad? Do you want to learn more about ways to manage it effectively? That's exactly what we're going to find out on today's episode. Hey everyone, I hope you're all chilled and relaxed while listening to this episode, because our aim for today is to take down this nasty monster that's called stress. Stress isn't just a buzzword. It's a physical and psychological response, but to understand it better, let's redefine stress. What we mean by stress, technically called stress response, which is a state of alertness that happens in your body when you are faced with a situation that requires your immediate action. In other words, it's our body preparing us or pushing us for taking action in response to an urgent situation. And this situation could be different. An extreme example would be life-threatening situations. When we are, let's say, being attacked by a monster in the wild, you really need to be stressed when there's a tiger trying to put you in their lunchbox. But our modern day problem is that we took this primal response to our modern life, where the likelihood of bumping into a tiger on your way to work is not that probable. But when you arrive there and you find this email that's waiting in your inbox, reminding you about that deadline, here's when things start getting spicy, especially inside of your body. Because your brain will perceive this email as a threat, the same way it reacts to that tiger. But the difference here is that you can't really escape or fight that email. The way you are going to deal with it is very different. Because what happens when we are stressed is that our bodies enter the fight or flight state, giving us two options. We can either fight that danger if we are able to, but if the danger was too strong, then we will go for the flight response, which is to escape. And both reactions require similar, if not identical, resources from our bodies, like high muscle tension, hypervigilance, rapid heart rate to pump up blood to our organs and muscles, and many more attributes that we are going to explore in a little bit of detail if you are curious about the scientific part of stress. And this stress response has been a great resource in our arsenal for the past few million years. In fact, it's not only for us, but for almost all living beings. They have this essential response that helped them surviving all the threats, so their species could keep up and keep thriving. So coming back to our example of the tiger versus email, this mismatch is where the stress in modern life often becomes more of a burden than a boon, as our bodies haven't learned to adapt to the unique challenges of the 21st century. And the main difference is that the natural stressors like fighting a gorilla or escaping a volcano or anything that happens in nature, they are likely to end soon. So we have time to recover and come back to our homeostasis. Assuming you survive, of course. But in the modern world, things are a little bit different. Your work is not going anywhere. You're going there every single day. If you have problems in your family, or with your partner, or any other form of the modern day stressors, they are likely to persist. And here's where things get dangerous. Because your body is perpetually in this fight or flight state. But there's nothing to actually fight or escape from. So you're internalizing all this stress and all these emotions in a way that's detrimental for our health. And to understand that better, let me take you on a small biological ride where we explore in more details what actually happens inside of your body when you get stressed. And in more scientific terms, stress is a complex interplay of nervous, endocrine, and immune mechanisms, and it involves the activation of two systems in our bodies. They are called the SAM and the HPA. SAM is the abbreviation for the sympathetic adrenomedullary axis, and the HPA is an abbreviation for hypothalamus pituitary adrenal axis. And these two parts represent the slow and the fast response to stress. And if the names are intimidating for you, you can just remember the SAM and the HPA, where SAM is the fast stress response and HPA is the slow stress response. So the SAM axis increases the secretion of norepinephrine and epinephrine, which is also known as the adrenaline, to our blood and circulation, which leads to increased blood pressure, heart rate, muscles blood flow. Also, it increases sodium retention and glucose levels, as well as oxygen consumption. The SAM activation also causes behavioral activation, which is enhanced arousal, alertness, vigilance, cognition, and focused attention. And you can notice how all of these factors contribute to the response of fight or flight, because we need to be aware, we need to be vigilant in the face of danger, and we need our glucose levels to be high to provide fast energy source for our muscles, as well as our heart rate should be high to provide blood pumping to our muscles to take action. This is all thanks to the fast stress response triggered by the SAM axis. On the other hand, we have the HPA axis, which is the slow response, represented by this hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis, where it begins in the hypothalamus that releases the hormone called CRH, leads to release of cortisol from the adrenal glands. And cortisol is the primary stress hormone. Cortisol has several effects, including mobilizing energy stores, suppressing the immune system, as well as helping the body manage and recover from the stress response. And these effects prepare our bodies for a long battle, with both mobilizing energy sources and suppressing the immune system, where mobilizing energy sources helps sustaining energy for the muscles where they need to take action, and suppressing the immune system helps to prevent inflammations. Because while we are in this dangerous situation or in a fight, or this popular example about the swimmer that gets injured while he's swimming in the sea, and this is an example of a stressful situation, the body reacts by releasing these stress hormones. So his body suppresses the inflammations so he could continue swimming until he reaches the shore. He even doesn't feel pain until he reaches there, lays down on the sand, and at that time only he starts feeling the debilitating pain of the injury. But his body was able to keep him going for all the way without having any complaint. And here we can start feeling how this stress reaction is very crucial in our survival. But where things start going wrong is when we stay under this effect of stress for a long period of time. And here we enter something called chronic stress. Chronic stress is when we are under stress for a prolonged period of time. It could be many weeks or even months or more. For some people, it might be even years. And chronic stress has detrimental effects on our health for the exact same reasons that we mentioned earlier. Because of the cortisol, which is the stress hormone, it suppresses the immune system, causing too much problems in our body. Imagine living with your immune system not functioning. You will start getting illnesses from everywhere. This is why when you're under stress, you're more likely to get sick. And other reasons like the elevated heart rate, which could cause all sorts of heart problems, as well as the muscle tensions that will cause aches and pains all over the body, and many more things. Do you remember how I usually have some books for you that I recommend reading? Now I also have one book, but I actually don't recommend you reading it. Not because it's bad, but because it's too scary. The book is titled Why Zebras Don't Get Ulcers. And ulcers are a very well known phenomenon caused by stress. And this book takes you on a 500 pages ride on the multiple dangers of chronic stress and what effects can it have on our health and what illnesses could it induce. I couldn't even read more than 200 pages because I was too scared. It reveals that stress, especially chronic and prolonged stress, might be worse than any other thing your body could experience. And it could cause all sorts of dysregulations in your different systems, in things that you might not even expect, like digestive issues or even autoimmune disease. And you might have heard that people who suffered a lot of stress in their lives could age faster. That was actually scientifically proven. It was proven that stress affects our DNA, and in particular, the part of our DNA called telomeres. And telomeres are the ends of our DNA that protect the DNA while it's being copied from damage or corruption. And stress was found to have an effect on this telomere by shortening it, which is identical to the effect of aging. So individuals with high stress could age faster. And this is likely due to increased mitochondrial activity. And it's one thing to talk about stress in theory, but experiencing its impact firsthand is a whole different story. As for a while myself, been dealing with the consequences of stress, manifesting in ways I couldn't immediately explain or even expect. I dealt with symptoms like persistent jaw tightness, muscle tension, signs that my body was under strain, and many cases that I was not able to explain. Things like knees pain or different aches in my body, like neck and shoulders. Learning about stress was a wake-up call for me. Once I recognized that these are all signs of stress, I knew something had to change. That's when I started actively working on managing my stress levels and learning to keep things in check. And throughout my readings and exploration, I found out that actually identifying that we are in a state of chronic stress is not that easy or intuitive. You might be right now in a state of chronic stress, but you might not even know it because it just became the new normal for you. And it's very hard to shift our brain and focus to realize that we are in a state of stress because it just gradually and perniciously dominated our thinking and our physiology because of the accumulation of stress hormones in our body. So the first step that we can take towards recovering from stress is actually identifying that we are in a state of stress and that our body in the state of fight or flight. And this discovery requires some sort of self-reflection where you can try to find out indicators that might lead you to this conclusion. You might ask yourself, am I getting moody or irritated? Does it feel like I'm always worrying about something? Or does it seem that I don't have enough time to take care of myself? Maybe you don't have time to do things that you enjoy. You can even look into things like, do you always seem to catch cold or infection? And another indicator could be also unhealthy coping mechanisms like using alcohol or smoking. All of these are indicators that you are in a state of stress. And I will also add a link in the description to a test that you can take online that I found it useful, where it will give you some sort of a score how likely stressed you are. So now let's look at the bright side. We can actually deal with that stress effectively and limit its bad effects on our health. Maybe even prevent the stress when it's not needed. So let's explore how. This transformation will not happen overnight. It will take effort and time, but it's definitely achievable. And for that, I will split the tools that I'm going to give you into 3 categories. First up, we have what I call the quick acting techniques. These are the methods that you can apply instantly whenever you feel stressed, or you can think of them as your emergency stress relief tools. They're designed to bring immediate relief when you are in the thick of a stressful moment. However, their effects are usually short lived. They're like putting out a small fire, effective in the moment, but not for a long term. And here comes the second category, which I call the coping strategies. And these strategies are more about proactive stress management. They involve making changes in your lifestyle and adopting strategies that help you avoid or better manage potentially stressful situations. You can think of it as like setting an alarm for stressful situations, where you can prevent stress from escalating. And the third category is my favorite, which is called building resilience. And building resilience will help us not only build a tolerance for stress, but it will also protect us from the harmful effects of chronic stress. So we can build up our bodies and minds to be stress proof. So starting from the first aid toolkit, we have, you named it, our breath. Well, before skipping this part, our breath is actually a very powerful stress management tool. I know that you heard everywhere that you need to take a deep breath when you're stressed. Well, this information is incomplete because scientifically speaking, the effective way to deal with stress using our breath is when we prolong our exhales to be longer than our inhales. When our exhales are longer, we activate our parasympathetic nervous system, which is called the rest and digest state, which counteracts the fight or flight response that induced by stress. And this way, we are instantly feeling calmer and more relaxed. It was also found that diaphragmatic breathing could be very helpful. When you focus to inhale into your diaphragm and breathe into your belly rather than keeping your breath shallow and on top of your chest. So you can take a deep breath into your belly, can hold it for a few seconds, and then when you exhale, focus that you exhale for a longer period of time than your inhale. And it might be also beneficial to count the seconds. There are many resources and guided breathwork techniques that might help you with that. It's widely available online and guide you throughout this breathing process. Another very effective method is progressive muscle relaxation. The same as we mentioned before, we have lots of resources online that will also guide you towards this process. It's about tensing and then relaxing every single muscle in your body. And this is especially helpful when you are experiencing muscle tensions caused by stress. A similar method is guided imagery, where we're visualizing a peaceful and calming place, and this mental escape can offer a quick relief from stress. Other tools that I would like to include in this fast-acting techniques are aromatherapy, where smelling some calming scents like lavender or chamomile and sandalwood can have a profound effect on stress, as well as listening to music. Listening to relaxing music, whatever type you prefer, is especially helpful. And finally, we have the laughter, where you can take a moment to watch a funny video or just recall a humorous memory. And now we are moving to the coping strategies. Coping strategies are more like lifestyle adjustments. And the most important one for me in this category is setting boundaries. Setting boundaries in both personal and professional life could have a tremendous impact on your stress levels on a day-to-day basis. And the most important thing to learn here is how to say no and to not overcommit. And this very easy thing took me a long time to learn, and it's still a work in progress. But I can say that it helped me a lot. Another coping strategy would be time management. where building an effective time management regime could also help you a lot and prevent last minute stress. And now let's talk about the ways that will help us building resilience, which is the long-term game. But this could have a profound impact on multiple areas of our lives and not only about stress management. I will quickly mention the most basic three things that are exercise, sleep, and diet. These are always present in any well-being process or personal growth path, and they should take your biggest focus. Other habits that are especially helpful for dealing with stress, it was found to be, for example, gratitude, which is something we talked about extensively in a separate episode. You can check it out. Another thing is building the support network and social network that you have, to have people you can rely on in your daily life, people you can talk to or vent whenever you want. Even physical touch and hugs are so powerful, and they can also be a quick and immediate relief from stress. Because hugging, as we mentioned in the previous episode, releases oxytocin, which is the feel good, which is the love hormone, and it immediately reduces the cortisol level in our bloodstream. So it can be very effective. And one more habit to add to your list is journaling, where journaling is overall very helpful in processing emotions and especially with dealing with chronic stress, where you can identify your thought patterns, identify your stressors, and be more aware on how you're going about your days. And as we come to the end now of our episode, I hope that I added something new to your toolbox. It's important to remember that stress is an unavoidable part of our life, but it doesn't have to define or control us. So the strategies that we've discussed today are tools in your arsenal, ready to use when you need them the most. Always remember to do things that you enjoy and take care of yourself. See you in the next episode.